Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to the Garn Report, live from the Garn floor, right? We get to do this. Josue Pavon by my side.
They're ready to shut this thing down, man. Turn the lights off.
Not as rare we're matching, though. That happens.
Man.
I don't know how, but it happens.
Every once in a while, great minds think alike, I guess.
So Celtics lose game 2, 111-101. And three-point shooting, the big deal. We talked about it a lot leading up to this.
Yeah.
How the Heat said they were going to get more up. They said, we're probably not going to hold the Celtics to 25, but we're going to try to limit them. But they nearly shot 53s and nearly limited the Celtics to 25 threes. So the two-way adjustment coming out of game 1 to get up way more shots from deep and to limit the amount the Celtics did after they hit 22 on Sunday. I couldn't have scripted it better if you're Miami. And they hit 23 to fall just one short of their franchise record for threes in a game.
Crazy.
So is this on the coaching from Miami's perspective and Boston being unable to adjust to that adjustment? Or is this on the players not being able to make the efforts necessary to stop that kind of three-point shooting on the
You know, Bobby, I think it's a little bit of both. You know, I just think regardless of what happened in game 1, you have to come back with something extra, you know, whether it's a focus or whether it's just something tactical or the case may be. And I feel like we didn't see that from the Celtics, because one thing that everyone would agree with going into game 2 was that the Boston Celtics weren't going to shoot like that in game 1. Like, that just doesn't happen in the NBA. It's very rare, obviously, right? It's only the second time in Celtics playoff history that they were able to connect on 22 threes. And then the Miami Heat come in here and they connect on 23 of those. And I feel like it was so like spread out throughout the course of the game, whereas the Celtics just kept trying to explore mismatches and hoping that it would work in their favor, and they did it. And that was sort of the end of them trying to just do something different. You know, their approach was very similar to what we saw in game 1. A lot of those shots were there, those three-point shots, but I just thought when it came down to it, when the Miami Heat got off to such a hot start, the Celtics started to try to explore the best one-on-one, matchups, and I feel like it just didn't work in their favor. The Miami Heat, whether it's between their help defense, whether it was denying Kristaps as much as they did, made it really difficult for him to get the ball in the paint. And even when he did get the ball, he was surrounded. They swarmed him, you know. And I just feel like the Celtics were caught off guard in that aspect of the game, but they shouldn't have been, because I just feel like in the playoffs, regardless of what happened in game 1, regardless if you won one, you have to take things up another level, especially against a team like the Miami Heat.
Well, luckily we stayed away from Kristaps in our prize picks. So
prizepicks.com. Yeah, that wouldn't have gone well, because I would have probably said more.
We go with Tatum. We go with White. White got right to 13, which was tough. He rimmed out a 3 after that.
Close, man. He had a run in that fourth quarter, man.
Tatum,
that could happen again in the series. I'm telling you, man. Derek White he's got another game like that in him for sure in the series.
Tatum did his job tonight, 10 for 20. He had a good offensive game, attacking mismatches. So we got that one. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, get 100% matching bonus up to $100. Do picks like those before each game. It's fun. Not as fun if you're Jaylen Brown going against these mismatches. Drew Holiday trying to force it a little bit. And Kristaps, as you mentioned, 1 for 9 from the field. Maybe his worst game as a Celtic, in a bad spot to do it.
Yeah.
Losing at home in the playoffs here. This is the kind of thing that we talked about. It extends the series. It sends you down to Miami for a game 6 if they split these next 2 games in Miami, which is certainly possible now. So this is what we didn't want to see from the Celtics coming into it. The lapses defensively tonight. And then offensively, they said they didn't get Kristaps the ball in the right spot. They didn't contest as many threes probably as they wanted to in this one. So this to me was on execution and efforts, especially when you hear the Heat saying this wasn't anything schematic or personnel wise. This is just basketball and making plays when you know it's going to be difficult and getting out to those shooters and getting in rotation. This is just a casual effort by the Celtics, where the Heat were perfectly in tune with what they needed to do and did it to maximum effort.
And there's something to be said about just the anticipation of it. Like, we all saw this coming, in the sense of they were going to try to get up as many shots as they could in that first quarter. They're going to try to take a lot of those 3-point shots that they hesitated in game 1, you know, and especially when you hear quotes from those shooters where that's exactly what they did, you know, and they
shot freely.
They shot freely, and I feel like the Celtics almost felt comfortable with that, because they anticipated for them to cool off, and it just never happened. I mean, clearly, right? I mean, throughout the second half, especially, you know, in that fourth quarter, it just never slowed down. So I just think the volume of 3-point shots, obviously working the Miami Heat's favor. But the Celtics offensively, they have to find other ways to get guys going. Some of your best players going. I mean, Jaylen Brown had a heck of a scoring game and
right in the half,
heck of a performance, you know. And I just felt like there was a way to keep that going. I know coming out of the timeout, which is what I asked Josue about in that fourth quarter, about midway through. I love that play that got him right down the middle, you know, drawing the teeth of the defense for a layup. You know, I would have loved to see more of that, or at least just trying to get the ball to the hot hand, which I felt like was Jaylen, and it never really happened. And I felt like once he cooled off, and it's like what Joe Mazzulla said as well, like when a team is shooting so well, like the Miami Heat were historically shooting in this matchup in game 2, that adds extra pressure for the Celtics, and they felt it, especially in this building when you just felt the crowd was sort of starting to say, man, they actually might win this one, you know, the Miami Heat. And I feel like the Heat capitalized on that type of environment, and they could feel it against the Celtics for sure.
Here's Jaylen talking about the defensive effort tonight.
Jaylen, just your evaluation of what you saw in game 2 and why you guys came up a little short tonight.
I think they, I tip my hat off to the Heat. I think they shot the ball incredibly well. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I think they shot the ball incredibly well. They put up more 3-point attempts than we did tonight. They played with pace. They played faster. That was their response, and they was able to get some good looks, but, you know, they knocked a lot of them down, which was tough.
Last year, they had a few games where a bunch of guys that we might term as non-shooters had outlier shooting nights, and they shot better than 50% or better a few times last year, and they did it again tonight. What is it about this team being able to hit so many three-pointers against you guys?
I think they're well coached. I mean, I think that's credit to the coaching staff and organization. They put together a good game plan for them, and they feel confident, and they come out and execute it. I think that's what, you know, they do, you know. And tonight was an example of that, you know. I just thought they made, you know, a lot of shots that we normally will feel comfortable with, but it's the playoffs. It is what it is. You got to adjust, and we got to play ball. So we got to respond.
So here's the question. Do you continue to hope that these non-shooters come back down to earth, or do you adjust to that? Because it seemed like the Celtics players tonight said, we got to adjust to that. And back to our conversation of coaching versus the players' mindset on this thing. But like when they get that hot, you do try to get out to those guys a little bit more and adjust to what they're doing. But all year, the Celtics have hedged away from non-shooters, and it's worked, and they've come back down there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Miami.
Yeah, I just think when it comes to certain players, especially when you have, you know, Tyler Hero in the mix, you know, Khalid Martin, you know,
it's difficult. A lot of guys in action.
Right. And especially because they can put the ball on the floor, you know, they can beat you off the dribble as well. I just think it's one of those situations where if you're the Boston Celtics, you just have to fill out the game. Like, not to sound like Joe Mazzulla, but it's true. I mean, I don't.
You gotta react. That's why I'm putting it on the players.
Yeah, I think it's an in-game react. That's right on. I mean, I just think that's what it really boils down to. Like, that has to happen organically. It doesn't have to be, you know, a schematic going into game 3 through effort, through instincts, right? Defensive instincts, stuff that the Miami Heat have down to a T. Guys that have been in that system for, you know, 2-3 years, who that's type of stuff is just muscle memory. And when it comes down to it, like Bam Adebayo said after game 2, right? I mean, everyone has the Celtics, or the Miami Heat rather, ruled out because they're shorthanded without Jimmy Butler. But at the end of the day, I mean, these guys are playing for pride, playing for ego. They're playing to tear down that narrative, and that, look, hey, we can be just as tough with or without Jimmy. And, you know, we hear the noise, you know, we know what it is. We know that everyone has the Celtics predicted the Celtics to win this series. So I think all of that plays a part. But when it comes down to it, I mean, are the Miami Heat going to connect on 23 pointers in game 3? Probably not, right? So do you want to completely change your game plan into locking down a 3-point shot? I mean, that'd probably be the wrong thing to do. It's probably what the Miami Heat are anticipating going into game 3. So Joe Mazzulla has to figure something out, you know, what's best for his team in the sense of defense. And I don't think there should be a whole lot of adjusting, but in terms of like in-game offensive executing, like if the shot's not there, or if these guys get off to a slow start in game 3, it could really be a long day for these guys against a team like the Miami Heat, who are hungry, obviously would love to get back home. You know, the pressure is on Boston, if you ask me, heading into game 3. And if they grab a 2-1 lead, man, like that's the kind of adversity that Joe Mazzulla will be talking about
That'll be
after
adversity.
Game 3. I mean, that's when you really put a team on the spot there and really test their toughness in the series.
We're brought to you by PXG. PXG, great golf apparel for the spring and into the summer. We're going down to Miami. Polos, hats,
No, I gotta get my gear ready.
shorts, anything you need over there. Go check them out, pxg.com/Garden Report for a discount on your first order. Love their gear, a lot of unique stuff. Hats, we're going to need that down there. Josue, keep the sun off our face. And again, it's great for off the course too. On and off the course, check out PXG. And Nutrafol, check out Nutrafol. If this game had you tearing your hair out, you want to go to Nutrafol.com/men. For a discount on your first month over there. That's Nutrafol.com/men. He's Josue Pavon. I'm Bobby Manning. Celtics lose game 2. It's a series, 111-101. How long of a series could it go now that the Heat are on the board? We're going to talk about that in our studio edition of the podcast. We're going to make the Gar in our studio, so stay tuned for that. He's Josue Pavon. I'm Bobby Manning. That'll be out tomorrow here on Celtics All Access, and subscribe to CLNS Media for all the post-game reaction from the players here. We'll see you in Miami.
Oh, shit, he's live. I forgot. Oh, shit.